Hey, come on, come on in. While we're fixing our glasses, let me fix my book over here. All right. Have you started cleaning your glasses yet? You know we do this every time. It's routine at this point. All right. Make sure you get all the streaks out of there. You ready? I'm ready. Let's take a view through Ashlynn's lens. So thank you for coming back. I'm so grateful that you decided to come and spend your Monday with me here. Welcome to Through Ashlynn's Lens. And we're in the midst of a segment called Becoming Pastor Ashlynn because guess what? I'm becoming a pastor. And I didn't want to go on this journey alone. So I decided to invite you guys in to take a view through my lens, but also to join me on during this conversation of preparation. You see, my book just won't stay. Well, either way, it's on Amazon if you look up my name. All right. Now, today we're having an amazing conversation with a wonderful guest, one that I consider a brother. So we're talking about a servant's heart. And here to join me in this conversation today is Pastor Justin Marshall. He's here and we're going to talk about what it means to have a servant's heart. Let me bring him on in.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. I hope you're doing all right, Ashlyn.
I'm doing pretty good.
Great.
You want to take a moment. I want to try and fix my book one more time. Let's see if it stays.
No
Other than
problem.
that, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, firstly, I'm excited to be on tonight. Thank you once again for sharing your platform with me. Once again, I'm Pastor Justin. From Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I serve as the assistant executive pastor of Christ Cathedral of the Triad under Bishop Freddie Marshall, which we all serve under a greater church. We're all family. And so I'm just excited to be here. Recently released my first book entitled Ministry Matters, a guide for servant leadership. And that is available on my website at justinmarshall.org. You can visit there and purchase that. But once again, yeah, just honored to be here. I thank you for inviting me. Just recently got finished playing with my son, so I'm hyped right now, and so I'm in that vein. So thank you once again for having me on tonight.
It's definitely a pleasure. I'm glad that you took a moment, found some time in your busy schedule to come on here and talk with our viewers. You guys, Justin is an amazing thought leader. Sometimes we sit down and have conversations, especially the millennial conversations, because in GCOD,
Yes.
Greater Church of Deliverance, that's pretty much where we park. But we have some amazing conversations, and he's a pastor, young pastor. We're around the same age, so I enjoy speaking with you every chance I get. And
It's an honor.
yeah. So, okay, let's jump right on into it then. I know that you have served in so many different capacities in the church. And so let's talk a little bit about where you've served. Let's talk about that. And then we'll talk about what it means to have a servant's heart while serving.
Definitely, definitely. Well, for me, I grew up as a PK. I tell everybody that I didn't join in; I was born in to the church. I probably was born on the second pew, right there. So church is all that I know. Not all that I know, but most of what I know. And the majority of all of my leadership skills, all of my servant leadership skills, stem from the church. And so I've served in several capacities. One of the things I was just recently discussing with a friend of mine was how important it was for us to be present even when we were younger because we were so impressionable. And I was thanking God for like my first Sunday school teachers who I still keep in contact with, for my youth pastors who I still keep in contact with, those individuals that kind of helped to shape and mold us in church, starting off on the youth choir, on the youth usher board, and doing a lot of things with young people. And that's something that I'm seeing that's still active today in the church, in some areas, and then in some areas not as active. And so I would start there. I started once again serving very early on because we took pride in being in church. We took pride in being a part, and to making sure that we were not in place as young people, but more so just around so that we could catch the principles and so that we could catch the gems and the nuggets that came from those that came before us. And so I've served in that capacity very young. I used to direct the choir. I used to be on the usher board. I used to sing on the praise team. I used to be on the step team. Then I transitioned once I got a little older, and then I was a part of the teen choir. I directed there, and then once I started to find my voice in ministry, I was able to begin to preside and MC over services and concerts and things of that sort. And then I also always served in the capacity of an adjutant or an alkalite is what we called them when we were very young. And then I transitioned into an adjutant, serving directly with my bishop, traveling with him, learning how to go in and out in certain settings and serve in that capacity. And now I'm here at 29 years old, married to my wife, Alicia, with one son, Ethan Spencer. And we're serving together and doing what it is we've been called to do. I'm the assistant pastor there. And so a lot of my administrative skills and things have all grown into this point and have brought me to this point. And it's something that I take great pride in.
Well, amen. I mean, you have literally done it all. You've served in every aspect thought of.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I used to be on the choir. I used to be in the choir too, right?
Okay.
Well, I remember because I was known for going to church. Really, which is quite interesting. I was known for going to church, but I didn't go to church that much growing up. Really, after a certain point, they made me go to Sunday school every Sunday, and it wasn't that I wasn't trying to go. It's just we didn't really go that much. So then they got me a ride, and I rode with this person to Sunday school every Sunday, right? So with that in mind, I was just known as a church girl, like at school and stuff. So I remember at school, I was a part of this organization called Girl Power, and Girl Power, we used to go, of course, and sing. Around this season, we'll be getting ready to go sing carols and stuff at the nursing home, right? So we were getting ready to do that, and we were practicing. The choir was practicing, and I remember I was probably in 4th or 5th grade, and one of the teachers, she called me up and she told me, she basically, I didn't know at the time what this even was, because when we had choir rehearsal, we just the person that played the piano was also the director. So he would direct in his seat. So I never really experienced too much real directing. And so she called me up and she was like, she just knew I could direct. And I'm thinking, as a kid. And I was like, so what do I do? Like, oh, you just let them know when to start clapping. I said, oh, I can do that.
We can do that.
When they started the song, I figured out what beat it was we're supposed to be clapping on. And so we started clapping when the music started.
I know we was clapping on the 2-4 because in the Pentecostal church we clap on the 2-4, not the 1-3. So
now here's the thing. Now here's the secret, and I'm about to tell the world now. I clap on all the beats. Because the one that's clapping on the wrong beat, I just clap on all of them, and so I just do a fast clap. The ones at the back are the ones that are doing it. So I figured out a clap that'll look like I'm always on the right beat.
You're always on the right beat. I got you.
I watch that. You're gonna see. I'm telling you, I do them all. But it was so funny because I had absolutely no clue what I was doing, and she figured it out very quickly. All right, she's not the one for this job.
That's such a good point, because growing up in church where I grew up, we had to learn how to do just about everything. There would be times where we would go in and service would start or worship would start, and somebody didn't cut on the sound system, and just by default, somebody being late, we had to learn how to go up there, cut on the sound system, cut on the mics. And so I think that's one of the beautiful things about the African American, especially the Pentecostal church. We were kind of learning as we went. It was a real training ground for us, and so that's an amazing story. I have so many stories, but I don't want to call nobody out, so I'm leave those stories to myself.
No one knows who I'm talking about. And I think the teachers that did it at the time, I don't think they're on social media, so I get to skate through that. But what's also interesting is how differing our backgrounds are as far as church goes. Because first of all, I grew up Baptist, and not only did I grow up Baptist, but I grew up like I wasn't very active, as I mentioned, in church. Like we had church once a month. during that time. So I wasn't there all the time. And then we didn't have service, midweek service or anything. So I literally was there. And then when I started going to Sunday school every Sunday, that's just 1 hour.
Yeah.
So, but I also didn't, I was in the choir, but I didn't serve in like you did basically. It wasn't until I accepted my call to preach that I started, I was in college at that time. So I would show up to service, 30 minutes to an hour early just to see where I need to fill in. And so that's learned about how I need to go flip the switch, turn the sound system on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So even in that time, though, I was able to find out that it's a little different, especially serving as an adjutant. That your drive for things tends to shift a little bit more. It's kind of like I would think you're kind of pulled in a bit more, even more than just being called to preach. And so, can you talk about your experiences in that area, leading
Yeah.
with that servant heart?
Definitely, certainly. As we're talking about having a servant's heart, I think that passion is definitely one of the things that helps to identify, kind of where you should serve in ministry, and that's something that I've learned. But as it pertains to working close to your pastor or serving in like an armor bearer, personal assistant, or adjutant area, it's definitely something, as you stated, that you're pulled close into, and it's something that I think in this generation we've kind of gotten away from the reverence that is needed for those types of positions. Whenever you are pulled close to your senior leader, it's definitely an honor, and you should take it as an honor. But beyond that, you should make sure that you're doing all that you can to serve in that position effectively by making sure that you are prayerful, by making sure that you are detail oriented, and making sure that you consecrate at all costs, because you are closer to the anointing, you are closer to the visionary, you are serving in an area where a lot of people wish to be, but they don't have the capacity to be. I want to say that again. They wish to be there, but they really don't have the capacity to be there, because in those types of settings, and it's not just for adjutants, but I would like to take it a step further, even for those that serve on a staff of a church or a personal staff with a visionary or with a senior leader. It's imperative that you understand that there are a lot of people that look at you and you become a target for them, because you are close to something that they wish that they could be close to. You are in areas and in rooms and in circles, hearing things that you should be consecrated and strong and mature enough to know that even though you're privy to certain information and to certain things, that you should not let those things come out of your mouth, because you are in an area where a lot of strategic planning is happening. You're in an area where that leader is sharing their heart and sharing their vision and sharing their mind. And so I'm serving in those capacities. It really helped to grow me and mature me as we talk about even the word elder. And we really look at that from a biblical standpoint. It's not talking about those that are older in age as much as it's talking about those that are mature in character. And so those, when we ordain elders, we're not ordaining you just because you've hit a certain age, but we know that spiritually you've hit a certain mature mark that is necessary for you to grasp in order for us to trust you with more. And so that's something that I would just convey and just really kind of talk about, or just share with any individual that's looking to work close with their pastor in any kind of area. You want to make sure that you're prayerful. You want to make sure that you pay attention to details, and that you make sure that you consecrate that area and consecrate that space, because that leader is really giving you an inside look at their heart.
Oh, absolutely. One thing about ministry is that in true ministry, that is not, we'll just leave it at that. True ministry. One thing about that is it causes people to be vulnerable. It
Yes.
really causes everyone involved to reach a certain state of vulnerability, because the pastor has to be vulnerable to let you in to those intimate spaces, right? But
Right.
then you have to be vulnerable enough to lend yourself as a vessel for use, even in that vision or in that moment that God has ordained. And then those people that are showing up to be a part of the experience, they have to be vulnerable enough to reveal their hearts to God and say, okay, God, this is what I need. Like it's something, because that's the one thing that we don't want to be. That means, we tend to link vulnerability to weakness. Unfortunately, that's not what it is. It's really more of a place of strength. You're strong enough to allow your true self to show, and then God can come in and move in whatever, use whoever He wants and move in whatever way He wants. So yeah, I believe that's absolutely amazing information to share. Okay,
Definitely.
well, now that you shared that, then let's talk about the balance when you're serving, because having a servant's heart means you have literally committed yourself completely to the work or to the vision at that time, right? Well,
Right.
how are you able to balance that with your personal life?
I think it's important for balance to be there because if not, then burnout will happen. And it's easy for those that are really committed to anything to burn out or to get burned out. And so balance is very important, knowing that once you've done your duty, once you've done your job, for those of us that serve in any capacity, but specifically those of us that serve very closely with the vision or the visionary, we know that we're on call service. We don't really clock out. But
Right.
even with that, with me getting a family and me understanding, hey, I have my first ministry being here, then I had to make sure that I prioritize correctly in the order that God wanted me to prioritize to make sure that I was serving in these capacities. So with knowing how to pull away and knowing when to still away, that's very important. You have to balance, the fact that you're serving in ministry. For many of us that are not senior pastors or we are assistant pastors, we're not technically full time. So we have I mean, this is our vocation. So we have another job or another area where we've given our expertise to. And so that's important, knowing how to really prioritize and then knowing how to really just still away and recharge yourself. That's something that I think is very important because you're not going to be any good to the vision if you're no good to yourself. And what I mean by that is making sure that you serve yourself first, making sure that you are in a state in mentally, in a state spiritually, in a state emotionally to be able to even lend yourself to anything else. Because if not, you'll drag the things that are broken. You'll drag the things that are not together, that are not tethered to who you really are, and you'll drag those things into the vision, into the church, into the organization, and then you'll wreak havoc there. And so I believe that it's very important that you find that balance in making sure that you do a lot of self-serving. And I'm not saying be narcissistic. I'm not saying be selfish. But what I am saying is making sure that you are postured in a way that you'll be beneficial to something else. But you want to make sure that you're beneficial to yourself first. You want to make sure that you're beneficial to your family. You want to make sure that they're getting everything that they need from you before you give all of what you have to something else, and you have nothing left for those that are really there to help you. And so I think that that balance is important. And I think that understanding that or getting to that place is being sure that we prioritize as God wants us to prioritize.
Absolutely. I think that's very important because I think the overarching main thing that you said was you have to take care of you. You
Yep.
can't step in and allow God to use you to take care of someone else if you're not taking care of yourself. And that's
Yes.
very important
Mm.
because I think the term leading while bleeding doesn't just refer to the pastor. It also
No.
refers to the all the staff, all the adjutants, arm bearers, administrators, everybody you can think of. You can
Yep.
lead while bleeding too, choir directors too.
Yes.
You really have to take care of you in order to take care of anything else. And that,
Yes.
I mean, that pretty much is the order that God has set up anyway, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can remember I remember serving, and I remember, I would be praying for my leader. But then a situation came up where I was praying for my leader, but I was experiencing some crazy warfare. And so I was thinking, okay, I don't want to bring this up to my leader at this time because they're preparing to go out and be used by God. And so God really revealed to me in that moment, okay, think about this. If you're praying for your leader, then who's praying for you?
Mhm.
And so God taught me that it's important to have your own people while you're serving, while you're part of someone else's people, while you're part of their circle. Then you should have your own circle that knows, hey, I'm about to enter into this, or not only I'm about to enter into this atmosphere, but also I have been experiencing some warfare. Will you please lift me in prayer while I'm out here doing this for my leader? Because I won't be praying for me right now. Instead,
Yep.
I'll be praying for my leader. So if you can have my back, basically I have someone else's back, so someone else should have mine. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to create those groups of people for yourself.
I think we do, and that's a very good point because you don't want to drag even the things that are happening with you to your leader. You know,
Right.
especially in pivotal moments. It can be before they get ready to minister. It can be that they're in a certain season, and so you have to use your away time or your downtime to make sure that you're consecrating that you're remaining prayerful and that you are recharging. And so I tell people all the time, if you're serving in a capacity where you're serving close to the leadership, you may not be able to do what everybody else gets the chance to do. You may not be able to go out and go to eat, after every worship. You may not be able to go to every concert or sing along. There are going to be some seasons where you're going to have to steal away because you don't know when you're going to be called upon. You don't know, when your voice is going to be needed, and you don't want to bring any type of contamination to that moment that will keep you from being effective in that moment. And so I think that's very important.
Oh yeah, and even then, I think that it's important. First of all, isolation becomes very, it becomes very important to one who's called to serve another servant, really.
Right.
And well, with that in mind, though, there are also moments because we're balancing it. There are moments where going to the movies might just be the thing you need to help release the stress that you can't. I know. Let me tell you, when I one job I had, it was like it was so stressful throughout the week that what I used to do, I made a practice every Friday. I would get off work maybe about I want to say we'll just say 9 o'clock. I don't think that's the real time, but it was close to that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would get off work at 9, and so what I would do, I would leave work and I would go straight to the movie theater, which was right up the street from my home, and I worked in that area as well. So I would go straight to the movie theater and I would pick whatever movie I would pick out of the movies they were about to show next.
Yeah.
And every Friday for a few months, I would go straight to the movies and spend my Friday night watching a movie just to decompress.
Yes.
Because not only that, we're working probably throughout the week. Then we have ministry because we're pretty much all a minister. Once a minister, you're pretty much always a minister from that point forward, pretty much all day, every day, really. Because even when you're not serving your leader, you may have friends or some colleagues or someone that needs prayer, right? So yeah, so you're stressed. You may find yourself stressed at work, and then being a minister, that's a lot of pulling on you as well. And so sometimes you have to incorporate practices. And plus, I'm an adamant person that teaches Jesus in therapy.
Yes.
So sit down and have a conversation with your therapist, but then go do something fun. I had to movies are something that are fun. They are something that's fun to me. And I enjoy the story. I enjoy watching the story unfold, right?
Same
and so
here.
that was my way of escaping what I had going on, but also decompressing while they're involved in someone else's story.
Definitely. It's very important. It's funny you bring that up because I'm a person that will frequent the movies a lot. Of course, not during this time. I haven't been able to go due to COVID, but I would go by myself. If I ever had a day off or something of that sort, I would go in the middle of the day. Generally, like when the senior citizens were there, and I would go with them and relax with them. But it's important. It's important that you find some space for you. You find some time for you to make sure that you're recharged because, like you said, you never know when you're truly called to this thing. It's not something that you just do on Sunday morning. It's not
Right.
something that you just do midweek service. It's something that you're called to for life. Ministry is a call to life. And it's a part of who you are. But it shouldn't cause you to become so inconsistent in other areas that you forget what it is you've really been called to do throughout your entire space. So
Absolutely. And I was just thinking, I don't think we have said just straight bluntly what a servant's heart is. Having a servant heart for me basically means that I am passionate about serving, and serving as in, first of all, I'm a servant of God. I serve God and his vision for the earth and for the people, right? And even for myself, his assignments that he's given me. I am committed to serving him in that manner, right? Which means pushing forth the agenda of God. And so with that in mind, sometimes God will assign us to serve him through serving a leader here on the earth. And so that's where I believe being an administrator, adjutant, armor bearer, even choir directors. I think they all count too. Serving the church in whatever way is still pushing forth the agenda of God. And so having a servant's heart means you have decided that, look, this is something that I have to do. It's not just something that I want to do. It's not something I've decided to do. But although I choose to do it, it's something that I am committed to doing, and nothing can change my commitment. Nothing can make me break my commitment. I'm obedient. I have decided this is what I'm supposed to do. And so that means basically my heart, it's in my heart to do it. I think it's a song that says it's in my heart to serve the Lord. And even in this case, it's in my heart to serve the people of God. It's in my heart to serve the vision of God. And that's what I think having a servant's heart is. Anything you want to say to that?
I mean, I would definitely agree. We are the body, and I think people forget. And I think one of the things that this pandemic has done throughout the year of 2020 has just kind of brought us back to understanding that the people, we are the body. We are all fitly joined together. And that's what makes the body so beautiful and so effective when we understand that serving each other is serving the agenda of God. Serving each other is serving the agenda of God. It's not you serving at a particular location, or just serving a particular event. It's you being able to find the assignment in someone else and making sure that you hear God concerning that person and that you do what he's telling you to do concerning that individual. And through that, I believe that we're blessed as well as that individual is blessed. But most importantly, God is pleased because we found our assignment in the earth through someone else and making sure that we serve each other. I'm often reminded of scripture of how Jesus reminds, specifically in Matthew, Jesus reminds the disciples that what you all may have known to be a greatness in times past is not really what it is as it pertains to me. And so Jesus is telling them, and whoever's going to be chief among you must first be your servant. And whoever's going to do, or be chief or be great among you must be a servant or a slave or a minister to all. And so that's the beauty of how even Jesus displays a servant's heart, because he even washed the feet of those who were sent to serve him. And so in those many instances, we see Jesus making sure and always teaching in parables and saying, "Hey, this thing is not about who's serving you; it's about who you serve." And even Jesus being the Christ, the Christos, the Son of the living God, he found himself serving the body. He found himself healing lame individuals, opening blind eyes, just helping people to find themselves. And so that's the beauty of a servant's heart, when we can really take the light off of us and turn it to those who actually need Jesus. And so that's all that I would add to that in that case.
Absolutely. And I thank you for the addition, because that was a very important portion of it to add. Okay. So we've talked about the amazing parts of being having a servant's heart, but let's talk about a little bit more of some of the some of the places of improvement for that,
Yeah.
right? So another thing that often happens is sometimes when a person has a servant's heart, they can be caught up into serving their leader. Sometimes they begin to idolize the leader as opposed to looking past them and seeing God. And so, what has been a helpful thing for you not as opposed, in reference to making sure that doesn't happen, or what you
I,
have with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important that, with all that you do as it pertains to, like, the church culture that we create, making sure that you really find out who God is, for yourself. I believe that that really helps to kind of keep everyone balanced and in their place, making sure that you're working out your own soul salvation and doing that with fear and trembling as unto God and not as unto a person or as unto an organization or anything of that sort. It just kind of just kind of goes back to what it is that I just said about making sure that we understand that we are the body, and so once we understand that, we kind of bring ministry away from just what we do on Sunday mornings, the worship and all of that. I believe that that is a time for us to really worship God. But the serving part is what happens, Monday through Saturday. The serving part and the ministry part is what happens, when there are no lights, no camera, no action, no any of that. And so I believe that that's a very important part, making sure that we instill in individuals how to find Jesus for themselves, how to bring these foundational and fundamental truths of fasting and praying, not just when your church is doing it, or not just when they're doing it as a corporate body, but doing it on your own, making sure that you carve out time in your week or carve out time in your day to really read your Bible and really study and take your own notes and then go and do your own research. I believe things like that are important because, once again, we all are going to have to give an account for ourselves. When we stand before God, we're going to have to give an account for ourselves. So it's not going to be who I served. It's not going to be, what organization I was a part of, or what denomination I was a part of, or how many titles I have. None of that is going to matter. It's going to be what you did to work out your own soul salvation, and what you did to protect that relationship and that consecration as unto God.
Absolutely. And not only that, oh man, I had a good point and I just lost it.
Oh, wow.
But one thing that is also important, even as far as that goes, is this is what I was gonna say. Yes, we were talking about studying our Bible and stuff on our own. And let me tell you, one thing that really helps is some accountability partners. I have my accountability partners, and like right now, we're in the midst of deciding if we're going to do. One of my friends, she decided we should do 8 minutes of prayer every morning.
Okay.
Early in the morning. And so I'm the one that struggles with getting up very early because I'm more of a night owl. And so it was funny. We were all on the phone, and she mentioned it. She mentioned that we should have the 8 minutes of prayer early in the morning, and everybody got really quiet, and then bust out laughing because they're like, it's like everybody silently looked at me like, here's where you need to say.
Right.
And I'm like, I was like, y'all waiting on me to say no, I can do this.
You can do it. You can do it. I'm a night owl too. But
Yeah.
there's something about seeking God, early, that I have found a lot of strength in, and so I commend them, and I commend you all for doing that. Yeah.
Well, we haven't started yet.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well, I'm
happening.
praying for you.
But let me tell you though, there have been moments where so when I wrote my book Praying Through the Press, during that time I had friends from many different areas that were all calling me at the same, like literally one day, so many friends called me and said, "Hey, I'm going through this and will you pray for me?" And I'm like, golly, okay, what's going on here? And they wanted to consistently pray. And I said, okay, here's what we'll have to do. I'm just going to talk to my pastor and get the release. And then he released me to be able to start like a prayer call. And we only did it for 7 days. But because of the different time zones, I had to do it at 4:30 in the morning. I think it was 4:30. 4:30 in the morning, because one person was in Orlando and she had to be at work at 5 o'clock by that time. And so I said, okay, we can do 4:30 in the morning if you're committed. And that was a major sacrifice to me because 4:30 I would just be rolling over, getting some good sleep. I would prefer to seek him early. I would prefer to stay up and seek him than to go to sleep.
At like 1 o'clock, right? Like
Yeah.
Got you.
Midnight now. I see midnight often. We can do that. But time in between that and 7, really, truth is, if I could choose, I would talk to people starting at 9 a.m. But I don't get,
I got you.
Yeah, but it is important to have friends and people that can hold you accountable, and not only hold you accountable, but help you become accountable. I think that's important, even especially while serving, because they can say, "Hey, look, you've been in ministry. You've been at a ministry event every day for the past 14 days. Let's go to the movies." You know what I mean? Right. Or like my friend, she ministered God used her. We're so churchy. God used her mightily last night, and and so I believe my assignment to her last night was to be a part of her come down, her landing, really, so that she didn't crash. And so we talked on the phone, and I said, "Now, if you're ready to come down, I have some funny stuff we can talk about." And she was ready. And so I started telling her about some events that happened yesterday that were quite interesting. And she was like, "Thank you so much, because you sure pulled me right on out of the spirit."
But you brought her back to reality. I got you.
Yeah, I sure did. It took no time. To the first statement, I had one ready for her. I was like, "How about this happen?" And it just went. We just had a little bit of girl talk. We'll say that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. It's important. It's important to create a community around yourself that can help you
Yes.
with the different portions of life that you experience, even in ministry.
Definitely, because I mean, truth of the matter is, and at the end of the day, I mean, you're still human, and you still have that side. And Scripture even talks about it. It says that, that the spirit does not strive with man always, and so it's imperative that we understand that even in those low moments, that we are cognizant of who we do allow in our space, during that time of descending, because we don't want to be in the wrong company and do something, that we'll regret. But then on the flip side of that, we do want to make sure that we have people around us that understand that when we do come down, just kind of really how to handle us, because it could be challenging. It could be challenging, and the truth of the matter is, once our flesh kind of, gets back in, in play, then a lot of things go through our minds. So I think that, that's a very important part, and making sure that you have individuals that just know how to handle you when you do come down from that mountain. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very important. And so I was thinking another thing we should talk about, since we're here talking about serving and a servant's heart. Then I know that a term that I often hear you use is servant leader. Tell us about what a servant leader is.
Yeah, definitely. Once again, I wrote the book Ministry Matters. I have it here with me.
That's the
I
book.
have my I have my I have my copy with me all the time. But really, servant leadership, to me, and this is just to me, servant leadership is individuals that create, a selfless space of empowerment, that really kind of helps to bring that individual into a space where they can find themselves, and so I tell people all the time, I'm really about creating a consecrated and a safe space for people to really just display their gifts, and that's what servant leadership is. The beauty of it is that it's not limited to those that have titles. Anybody can be a servant leader. Anybody can be a servant leader, because the truth of the matter is, it's you being sure that you understand that putting your hand to anything is for you to help empower that thing, and you do that through service. And so I think we've done a lot, over the years, talking about leadership, and leadership definitely has its place. But I think sometimes we ought to bring it back to a place, because it can just really separate a lot of people. I think we ought to bring it back to a place where everyone feels included, and servant leadership does just that. It includes every person saying, hey, I may not have a title, but what it is that I do is beneficial to what it is I serve. And so that's important. And that's really what servant leadership is.
Thank you for sharing that. And so if you guys are listening, I think he said something very important. And I think that you should certainly purchase the book, because if you find that you may not be called to leadership in the church, or you just haven't heard the call now or aren't ready to acknowledge it, and you don't really know where else you may fit in leadership, or I mean not leadership, but in the church period or in the kingdom of God, then
Right.
guess what? Order the book. You may find yourself identifying with some portions there, or some placements there in the kingdom, I guess we should say. So yeah, um, order the book. I'm telling you, it's good.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate it.
Certainly a pleasure, and thank you. I mean, you've been very supportive to me and my ministry along this way as well. And I don't think I mentioned this, but yeah, I'm a part of GCOD, so we're in this together.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Well, I think that we've had a great conversation here relating to a servant's heart, servanthood, servant leader, every type of servant that you can think of at this point. I think we've talked about it. So do you have any final words?
No final words. I want to congratulate you for doing this platform, and I really want to let you know that we're rooting for you. We know that because I've seen you serve in many capacities, and I know that once you launch out and start everything, and everything gets to rolling, that you will encounter some individuals that are going to be blessed by your ministry. And so I just want to say thank you, and definitely want you to know that we're rooting for you all of the way here in North Carolina. And we are praying for you as you continue to do what God has called you to do. For everyone else that's on the live tonight, listen, do what you can to make sure that you find your place and serve to the best of your ability. And remember that God gets glory out of you, making sure that you understand your assignment and that you do that to the glory of Him.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate you taking time to come on here and have a
Yes.
conversation with me. It was a very much needed conversation, one that I haven't heard so many times, on the airwaves. We're doing so much on social media now. I haven't heard this type of conversation, and I'm not just saying this because this is my podcast, but really because I think it's something that should be said publicly. And thank you for your words, your kind words towards me, and your prayers. I need every piece of prayer that I can get at this point.
We all do this year, so definitely.
Yeah. And again, I'm praying for you guys. I just love you. I love Ethan. I love Monet and you as well. And of course, the Carolinas are just another home for me that I visit often.
Indeed. We holding it down until we can all meet again. So.
Oh yeah, do that. I'm sneaking over there somehow. Okay. But I'll be back with you in just a moment. All right.
Yes, no problem.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for coming for another episode of Through Ashlyn's Lens. Let me tell you, I don't take your viewership. I don't take your participation in the discussion. I don't take any of this lightly. There's so many things that you could be doing on social media or even just with your life other than sitting here and talking with me. But I appreciate your presence. Believe me, it is very much noted. Of course, I read every comment. I try to reply to all of them. I'm even here in the comment section talking too. So again, thank you again for coming. I pray that something was said that sparked an idea, that sparked conversation. We aren't just here for the current conversation, but we're here to spark something in your mind that makes you think a little bit further, take it another step, maybe go do some research or look some of the guests up. Specifically, Justin, go and order his book. He says a lot of great quotes and things every day throughout the day. Follow him on social media. Please reach out. I'm telling you, you'll be blessed. Thanks again. You ready? All right. I think the view is pretty good today. Now, I take mine off at the end, but I really need them to see. So I'm going to put mine back on. But you can take yours off. All right. Have a good day.